Hey, how's everybody doing? So, I was pulled out my Heritage Gary Moore model, signature model guitar out today. We're not playing tonight. I have the night off, but I've been busy today doing some other stuff. But so I pulled this guitar out of the case, and I recently had some not old PAFs, but some PAF pickups made by S.A. Thomas put in this guitar. And so I was sitting here just playing, just loving the tone I was getting from this guitar. And so I was jamming along with this track that was very similar to the old Albert King song, Oh Pretty Woman. Gary Moore did a copy of that. And that's where these licks came from. I don't think they're exactly what Gary played, but I was just playing licks like Gary Moore. Again, I think Gary Moore is one of those guys it's hard to sound exactly like Gary Moore because he played, again, with so much passion and feel. But anyway, so I'm going to show you how to play these licks. Then I'm going to talk about this guitar because it's pretty cool and pretty special. I think I did a video before of Gary, The Loner by Gary Moore, and that's one of my archives. You could check it out. But and I played this guitar, but at the time I had put P90s in it. And I don't think I had these PAS spec pickups in it. So it sounds a lot different now. But anyway, so this lick, this very first lick, yeah, let me play it here. Again, I don't think this exactly is what Gary played on the opening line of this song. I think it's just similar. Like I said, I was just jamming over this thing because I was into a Gary Moore mood today with this guitar. So, let me see what I played here. Okay, so that's... So this starts off with a bend here on the 11th fret of the B string with your third finger. Like that. Put some good vibrato on that bend. Then you hit here on the 8th fret of the high E string with your first finger. Then you do a pull off on the B string from the 11th to the 8th fret with your third and first finger. Then you come up here to the 10th fret of the G string, second finger. Back to the 8th fret of the B string with your first finger. Then you do a pull off on the G string from the 10th to the 8th fret with your third and first finger. Like that. So we got. Then you come up here and end here on the 10th fret of the D string with your third finger. Then you come up here to the 10th fret of the G string with your third finger and do a whole step bend. Then you come back down here to the 8th fret of the, do that bend on the 10th fret with your third finger, a whole step bend. Then to the 8th fret of the G string with your first finger, put some vibrato on that. So we got. Then you hit on the 10th fret of the D string again with your third finger. Then you end with this double stop lick here on the G string and B string on the 8th fret with your first finger. And you slide that down. So it's... Let me play it with the track here. Let me nail it this time. Sorry about that. So we got. And then I did this lick, and again, I was just trying to remember what I remember Gary playing. I didn't go listen, so yeah. So there I went to the 13th fret of the high E string with my third finger, bent up a whole step, hit it 3 times, then come down, after you've hit it 3 times, come down to the 11th fret of the high E string with your first finger. That's on the high E string there on the 13th fret. Then you end here. You can do that with your second or third finger. The frets are small enough. I've seen guys play this lick with their second finger. I use my third finger. But I think I end here those last 2 notes on the 13th fret of the B string with my second finger. So it's okay, let me play it with the track one more time. Anyway, so those are a couple of Gary Moore style licks. I'm not going to claim that they're exactly what he did. Like I said, I was just trying to channel Gary Moore because I was playing this guitar. And I'm going to crank this up just once. It's pretty late here right now. It's going on 11 o'clock. I don't want my neighbors to freak out. But I just want to talk about the pickups, and then I'm going to talk about the guitar a little bit. So if you're just here to learn to play the licks, I'm done with that part. I'm going to be talking about this guitar and the pickups. So I'm going to crank this thing up just... By the way, I don't have the gain. The gain is only up about a quarter of the way up. I wish I could pull my camera down here, but... Well, maybe I can. Let me see if I can. Let's see what we got here. I don't know if you can see the gain over there. Plus my cable, I'm running out of room. So you can see the gain. There's a far knob on the far end down there. It's not even up to halfway. I'd say it's about a third up. And again, I'm only playing through a 112 too. So that makes a big difference too. If I had this thing cranking through a 412 cabinet, it would just be blowing this walls off in this room in here. But my wife would be throwing me out at that point. So, but I respect her. But I'm going to crank it up just up to that volume and let you hear this guitar. Yeah, so that's the bridge pickup. And again, I had my friend, his name is Shannon. He's with S.A. Thomas Guitar Repairs. He used to work for Paul Reed Smith. And this guy is top notch as far as you need a guitar repair. I know he's in Florida. He lives in the same town as me. I am so blessed to be able to live so close to this guy. But because he, I have an idea of a pickup, I call him up. So anyway, he built me some P90s for this originally, and I think if you look at archives, my archive, the loaner, I did a thing on the loaner, and I think that this guitar had the P90s in it at that point. So, but he built these PAFs. Now he hand winds everything. He gets all the specs of the pickups and does the exact winds of a PAF, and he hand does it. Now I just want to say this: I've owned several pickups in my career. I've been playing for 50 some years, and I mean, I've owned every kind of humbucker you can think of by different companies and all the boutique guys. I've tried out all that stuff. I had a music store for 10 years, and so I'm not saying I know it all. I don't, but I know a lot. But I watch where he builds his pickups, and it's all hand done, and I respect that so much because those old PAFs were kind of built that way. The older pickups were pretty much hand wound, um, and there's something about hand wound pickups. I think there's something magical about them. That's just me, probably, but I mean, there's a lot of great pickup builders out there, but he certainly is one. And I put a link to his Facebook page. He doesn't have a website, but he does a lot of other cool stuff. I'm not going to get into that. He helps out a lot of the veterans. He himself is a veteran. That's another reason I like to support him. But anyway, so he built these pickups for me. I didn't like the P90s. So this guitar was made in 1991. Let me put this. I'm gonna put the amp on standby. So this guitar was built in 1991. There were 150 of these signature model Gary Moores made, and the last one I looked at, I just went up there today to see what they were bringing, and there was one up there, same thing, 1991, Almond Burst. It was like number 3, and it was up. I think he was selling it for like 8,250, and which seems like a pretty fair price. You got to understand that the Heritage Guitar Company is the actual guys from Gibson. When Gibson moved in 1985, they moved Gibson to Nashville from Kalamazoo. And a lot of the employees there, the builders, the original builders, I believe the original 3 guys that started Heritage was Jim Dulou. I can't say. I'm not sure I can say that name right. It's Dulloo. Dulou. I don't know. Marv Lamb and J.P. Motes. Those were the 3 guys that started Heritage. And then later on, Bill Page and Mike Korpak, I believe. There was 5 guys, and all 5 of those guys built the original Gibson, like Les Pauls, 335s, 175s, Birdlands, all those guitars. These guys had their hands on that stuff. So, and I knew that, and so when they started building guitars, I bought a H150. I think in 1987. They started building guitars in '85. And I knew they were going to be good because I knew a little bit of the history. And I knew it was going to be made in the Gibson factory. The address is 225 Parsons Avenue. That's where, if you look at any old Gibson guitars, mandolins, banjos, that's where those instruments were built, back in Kalamazoo at 225 Parsons Avenue. So I knew that if I got a Heritage H150, which is a Les Paul more or less, that it was going to be just as good as a Les Paul, and maybe even better, because it had the guys that built the original Les Paul building it. So I bought my first one in '87. I loved it. Didn't keep it though. I wish I had it. It got destroyed. Unfortunately, I was on a cruise ship plane, and it fell over in a stand and busted the headstock right off. Unfortunately, these don't have a volute like some of the older not older Gibsons, but eventually Gibson put a volute up here on this back of this neck, which kind of prevented that. But that night the ship was rocking. I mean, we were in 30-foot swells, man. Everything was going to tumble that night. But anyway, so that was my first Heritage guitar. Then I remember I bought the one that's like a 335. I'm not going to remember all these model numbers. Then I bought one that was like the S175. I still have that one. I traded the one that was like a 335 for something else. But so I purchased this guitar, this Gary Moore guitar, back in the early 90s. This was made in 91. I think I purchased it in about 1993. And I just loved it. The guy walked into the store and he says, "Yeah, I got this Gary Moore guitar. It's a signature model." And at the time, I really didn't know about, I didn't even know that Heritage was building a Gary Moore guitar. I know Gibson eventually built one, but But Heritage built the very first Gary Moore signature guitar in 1991. So I bought this. He had two of them, believe it or not. This guy had two of them. And the other one was number 23. And I thought, that's cool. But I just want to show you this one because the original guitars, by the way, the original Gary Moore signature model guitars came with these pickups, which are the, I don't know if you can see that or not. These are EMGs. Let me hold it here and you can see. They're EMG 81s. And that's, I called the factory after I got this guitar, and you'll know why here in a minute. But I called and asked him, I said, so is that what Gary Moore wanted in this guitar, EMGs? And they said, yes, that's what he wanted in his guitar. He wanted EMGs. And I kept all the other, you know, the whole thing, the whole package here to hook it. I'm going to put it, if I ever sell it, I'll put it back to original condition. But that's neither here or there. So I didn't like, I'm not a big EMG fan. I've tried to use them and they just don't quite have the same tone for me that I like. I mean, I get it, they're real noiseless. I mean, this, well, I'll turn this off, but you know, these humbuckers, even though they're humbuckers, they still have some hum. But they're, again, these are made to specs of the PAFs. PAFs have a little hum to them. Old ones. I've owned a few 50s Les Pauls in my career. So anyway, I'm going to show you the back of this, which is so awesome. At least I think it is. Get the strap off. So you can see the Gary Moore headstock. That's his signature. And then, you know, the rest of the guitar, I've only changed the pickups. That pick guard is original. Let me move my drink here. By the way, I'm not endorsed by Buc-ee's. Had somebody ask me that. Are you endorsed by Buc-ee? No, I just like Buc-ee's. They're a cool place to stop if you're traveling. And this is water. I love water. So anyway, this guitar, so after I bought both of these Heritage guitars, and I'd looked at them, but I noticed the one, the serial number was 000. And I thought, wow, what's that mean? And so I looked in the case. This is after I bought them. I just wanted them. I didn't know much history about them at that point. I just bought them from the guy and sent them. This is when I owned a music store, and he came in and sold me two of them. And I just sent him on his way after I'd paid for him. And then I got to looking, you know, and I saw the serial number was 000. Then I looked in the case. You know, you can say, yeah, why didn't you look in the case before you bought them? I don't know. But I looked in the case, and there was this little letter in here. And it says, to whom it may concern, our Gary Moore Almond Sunburst guitar model with the registration number 000 was our prototype show model for the 1991 Anaheim NAMM show. Please call for further information. So I went, holy crap, this is the prototype. I mean, this is the guitar, the very first Gary Moore guitar that Heritage built. It was a prototype. Again, it had the EMGs that I showed you just a little while ago. And so I called. I called, and I believe I spoke with J.P. Motes. And I said, look, I just bought this Heritage guitar, serial number 00. It said, I got a letter with Bill Page signing it, saying that it's a prototype of the Gary Moore. I'm just trying to find out some more information on it. He says, oh yeah, he says, that's the first one we built. That's the very first Gary Moore guitar that we built. You know, he said, we made 150 of them, and but that was the prototype. And then I said, do you remember if Gary played this guitar? And he couldn't remember. He couldn't remember if he did or not. I said, you don't know? He says, no, I don't know. He says, I'll have to ask, ask some of the other guys if they know if Gary, had the guitar. So I think Bill Page at that point was nearby, and he asked Bill, and Bill said he thought that Gary did play it and own it for a brief. Well, let me say this: when I made a statement about the EMGs, I said, did he like the EMGs? I said, did Gary Moore like the EMGs? Because they built it to his specs, and he wanted the EMGs. So I asked him. I said, did he like the EMGs? And they said, no. That's why he sent the guitar back. Those were their words, and I'm thinking, okay, sent the guitar back. Must have meant he had it. So anyway, you can see that there's definitely some belt buckle wear. And again, I have no documentation that he really owned the guitar. I can only go by what, I was told. But I got a feeling that he did play the guitar, didn't like the EMG pickups, sent it back, and I don't know what happened at that point, because soon after that, I believe Gibson was building a Gary Moore signature model guitar. I think Gibson finally probably called him up and said, hey, you're going to sell more of those if they say Gibson on them, in which they were probably right. Unfortunately, my opinion, I own a bunch of Gibson Les Pauls. I probably have 20 some Les Pauls, and I have a couple old ones. But they're I can tell you that these heritage guitars are built just as good as the Gibsons are. That's my opinion. And the reason I can say that is they were built back in the old Kalamazoo factory. And there's another story about, the Fender situation. I'm not going to go into that, but G&L. I actually own one of the first G&Ls ever built. I'll break it out someday. And it's a broadcaster. There's a whole story about the broadcaster thing. But my broadcaster is very special because when I got it, I took it apart trying to figure out what the date and when it was made. And on the neck, you can't take a neck off of this guitar, but on a Telecaster, take the neck off and you can get the dates of when it was built. And so when I did that, there was a piece of paper in there, and it said inspected by, and in handwritten ink, it said Leo Fender. I thought, holy crap, Leo Fender inspected this guitar. He did the actual inspection of this guitar himself. And back when they first started, G&L, he was building a lot of the guitars. But anyway, so I'm not going to get into the G&L thing. But I just thought you guys would dig this Gary Moore model and the history about it a little bit. And again, it doesn't matter if Gary Moore did own that. Again, I don't have that documentation. I just have the letters saying that it was the first one built. It was a prototype. And I think that's pretty cool. And if he did play it, yeah, that's cool too. But I'll never know probably. But anyway, and I hope you enjoy the licks. I hope you enjoy what I'm doing here. And I'm going to start bringing out some of my collection and using it in some of the videos. I have a few cool guitars. I've been blessed. I had a music store for 10 years, and I purchased a lot of guitars during that time. And but this is one of my babies. I've been offered a lot of money for this guitar, by the way, being that it's, I told them the story and showed them the authentication, the letter saying that it was the very first one built. And I had an offer of 10 grand for it. I think it's personally, I see the number 3 up there for 8,200. I think this is probably worth maybe 15 to 20 because it's the first one. I mean, there isn't this is it. This was the prototype. This is what all the other ones were built from, this guitar. But anyway, thanks for watching this video. I hope you got a little information you can use, and y'all have a blessed evening. Thanks for watching my channel. Subscribe if you like what I do here. Hit the like button, share it with some friends, and as always, have a blessed evening. Thanks for watching.